Hey guys, it's Sajid Dan here, back again for another new video for you guys, and today I'm going to be covering my recent pickups for the month of February. This is actually a really slow month for me. I only picked up like 3 games, but that's because I've been trying to save up for the ridiculous amount of games and limited editions especially that have been announced and coming in the future months here, but man, it'll definitely pick up. But this was a nice kind of slower month, and we're just going to delve into these really deep games that I've played quite a bit of. Okay, and the first game I have here is a game I was definitely looking forward to, or I guess games technically. I'm obviously a really big fan of strategy RPGs. I just love strategy RPGs, especially if they're very traditional and keep the gimmicks to a minimum, but I'm a big fan of strategy RPGs. I'm a big fan of the series, so I was really looking forward to this. I was happy when they announced new games for the series. But that is, of course, Fire Emblem Fates. This is Fire Emblem Fates Special Edition, which is a really nice limited edition. Comes with a really nice art book, actually, a pouch, and then the most important thing is having all the games on one cart, which is really nice. So you get Fire Emblem Fates Birthright, Conquest, and Revelations all on one 3DS game cart, which is really nice. Okay, so moving on to the game itself, we have Fire Emblem Fates here. If you haven't seen the copy that comes with the special edition, it has Birthright and then Conquest on the opposite side. I personally decided to start with Birthright. Originally I was thinking I'd start with Conquest, but I decided to start with Birthright to kind of ease myself in. If you're not familiar with the differences between Birthright and Conquest, basically Birthright's more like Fire Emblem Awakening. It's much more beginner friendly, it's much more approachable and much more easy to kind of get into, meaning it's not necessarily an easy game, it's just there's certain things that make it a little bit more approachable overall, and you definitely have way more opportunities in Birthright to do grinding and stuff like that, whereas Conquest is kind of geared towards like the older Fire Emblem games and stuff like that. There's a lot less opportunities for grinding, quite a bit more challenging, stuff like that. Subtle differences, but interesting overall how they did that. But if you're not familiar with why there's 2 games too, it's basically like this kind of big story that's kind of like, depending on which game you play, you're getting 2 sides of a kind of opposite story, but yet this connects to this overarching like similar story. So you're getting 2 sides of like one story and 2 different point of views from these kind of 2 different nations and all the various characters associated to those kind of nations. And I'm quite a bit of ways in. I'm like at least 20 hours in. I've been quite addicted to it, playing hours on end. I just really love strategy RPGs like this that are very traditional, not a whole lot of gimmicks, but deep enough for you to get addicted to. But when it comes down to the core, it's really straightforward, which is what I really adore Fire Emblem for. If you're not familiar with Fire Emblem, it's a pretty straightforward SRPG series, but tons of depth still that's kind of there, but you don't realize it. But when it comes down to its core, it's just about moving around on a grid like a typical strategy RPG. And it's all about classes mainly, so various characters have certain classes, and certain classes are good in like short range situations, some are better at a distance, some classes are way more effective against other classes and stuff like that. Once a character reaches a certain level, you can promote them to a higher class and stuff like that. So it's really just, really addicting, just taking into account the class factor and how to move your units based on the kind of enemies you're fighting and stuff like that. And there's also this mechanic of percentages that's typical with the series, that like when you attack you'll see percentages of the odds that you actually are going to connect with that attack or not, and the odds of the enemy counter-attacking and stuff like that. And that's really fun for me to take into account. I love that kind of stuff. But one new addition which I really like in Fire Emblem Fates is actually a castle mechanic. They added like this castle mechanic which is new for the series, and basically you have your own dedicated castle, and like in your castle you'll see like all your characters and stuff like that, and it's kind of like a town kind of setting. Within this castle you can basically place facilities and shops and level up the shops over time and really deck it out and just make it your own personal kind of humble abode or something. It's just really fun, and like it's really interesting too because you can visit other people's castles, you can go to your friends' castles, check out their stuff, take items from their farms and stuff like that, which I do quite a bit. That castle mechanic just adds a nice little extra layer of depth to it, which is really fun and addicting. And I'll put my castle address below in the video description if you want to check out my castle or possibly challenge me, but it's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed that mechanic to it. And as typical of the series, there's tons of interactions between characters, and like characters pair up with each other, they'll build like bond and like affection and stuff like that. So you can build affection for characters and you get to learn more about them and how they interact with certain characters, and you can also eventually marry certain characters and stuff like that. And once they get married, they'll have kids, and you can have your kids join your kind of army and stuff like that. Wonderful game and all that. And if you were a big fan of Fire Emblem Awakening, you should definitely check out Fire Emblem Fates. I'm really enjoying it, so I'm looking forward to finishing up Birthright and then eventually moving on to Conquest and then eventually Revelation, so I can see what it's like to not pick a side and all that. I think actually that might be one of the more interesting things that has me excited, but really enjoying Fire Emblem Fates. Okay, and moving on, I have a PS4 game that unfortunately I haven't had the chance to play yet, but this is, I guess, kind of an interesting game because it's from Limited Run Games, and if you're not familiar with Limited Run Games, they produce, well, limited run games. I guess it's pretty straightforward, but yeah, they produce, like, they take games that were originally digital only, right, and then they produce physical copies for them in really, really low kind of quantities. At the end of the day, I'm so down with physical copies. Like, I just gotta have physical copies, and in general, I really love this trend that you see recently on the PS4 and all that, and Xbox One, that like there's this really strong trend of taking games that were digital only and giving them physical copies, and I really, really like that because they're like priced accordingly. They're like $20-$25, stuff like that. And so this is one of the limited run games that they did recently, and that's Saturday Morning RPG for the PS4. I totally love the cover art for this. But this is Saturday Morning RPG for the PS4. If you're not familiar with the game, it's basically like an episodic kind of RPG that's total like homage and inspiration to like 80s culture and 80s cartoons and stuff like that. So there's a whole lot of nostalgia here, and this game definitely is one of those games that relies heavily on nostalgia and that you're familiar with the kind of culture of that era and stuff like that to really enjoy the game. And it's kind of like a RPG that has like a timing based kind of mechanic to it, almost like Super Mario RPG, if you're familiar with that, where you're not just like hitting commands and stuff like that. There's like timing factors to it and stuff like that, which I thought was kind of interesting. And it's got this interesting style where the characters are like 2D sprites, but like the environments are 3D and stuff like that. So I'm actually looking forward to checking out Saturday Morning RPG in the future, but I've been kind of obsessed with another PS4 RPG, which I'll talk about next. So the PS4 game that I've been playing basically all throughout February and has definitely been taking up all my time in February, and I just recently finished it actually. And that's Mega Dimension Neptunia Victory 2. I was obviously really looking forward to this. I'm a big Neptunia fan. I really enjoyed the series. And this is a limited edition here, which was exclusive to Idea Factory's online web store. Came with a bunch of fun goodies. It came with like a 2-disc soundtrack, an art book, a really nice kind of PS4 skin, an Umio plush, which is like back here, over here, and some other goodies too, like a poster and stuff like that. And it comes in like this nice slipcase, so you have like the Japanese artwork there, and then you have that artwork there. So moving on to the game itself, this is basically what I was playing on my PS4 all throughout February, and I just recently finished it. The first time through, I didn't get the true ending, unfortunately, and I checked the requirements. I was literally like just one thing away from getting the true ending the first time through, but I'm kind of glad because I definitely do recommend with these games trying to, get the various endings and stuff like that, especially since the New Game Plus lets you carry over so much stuff and so much fun. And so I did the New Game Plus and I ran through the game in like 2 hours, slightly over 2 hours to get the true ending, which was a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed Mega Dimension Neptunia Victory 2. Like, if you're not familiar with the series, it's a series that's really heavily based on like gaming culture and culture in general, and referencing, culture and games and stuff like that, making fun of stuff and poking fun at stuff, and tons of like in-jokes between characters and stuff like that. And there's a lot of long-running jokes throughout the series too, and that's the main reason I really love these games, is mainly for the story component and just everything's like all the references and even the enemies and like levels that are like references to video games and stuff like that, or the moves and stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun, a lot of nice humor. The core gameplay is the same kind of battle system that you come to expect from the Neptunia series, where it's kind of, it takes place in an arena, and then each character can move around in this kind of arena area, and then you have various moves that have different like ranges and attacks and stuff like that. And what I thought was really interesting is how they handled the story, where basically in this game they've broken it up into like these 3 main kind of story arcs. So I thought that was really interesting how they did that, and they went the whole 9 with it. They made like opening intros for each story arc and stuff like that, and they really made it feel like these almost 3 mini RPGs that tell a bigger story eventually. But you know, it was really fun playing Mega Dimension Neptunia Victory 2. I really enjoyed it. There's a lot of other like kind of subtle new mechanics to it too, but it actually does look quite nice too for a PS4 game. Like the textures and all that look fairly basic for a PS4 game, but like the character models look nice. It's very bright, vibrant, colorful kind of game, and just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a lot of fun, so I'm really looking forward to future Neptunia games, but that's Mega Dimension Neptunia Victory 2, a lot of fun. Okay guys, so that pretty much do it for my recent pickups for the month of February. Cover everything I picked up in the month of February. As you saw, it was much more calmer, slower month, a few games here, but some really good games. But that's also in preparation of the coming months, where there's tons of limited editions and games I was really looking forward to in the coming months, so it's definitely going to pick up for sure. But as always, I want to thank you guys for watching another recent pickups. Be sure to let me know what you guys picked up recently in the month of February, or what you guys have been playing, or even what you guys are looking forward to. Always interested in hearing that. But until next time, please take it easy, guys. Bye, guys.